I did this last year, and I'm gonna do it again this year. Today we're gonna go over the on-ball defense. I'm gonna show you how to become a lock. If you guys are struggling with on-ball defense, you need to watch this video. You gotta watch this video. You're gonna regret not watching this video. I'm JerseyMade93, and hit that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe. We're gonna go into the basics of on-ball defense. We're gonna be talking about the triggers and which ones to use. Okay, first things first, the L2 button will put you in your basic intense defense stance. This is something that you need to do so that you can trigger the contact animations to stop the ball handler on his drive. Okay, so let's examine lateral movement. This is going to determine the type of trigger you should use. So let's look at just the L2 button. When we hold down the L2 button, as you see, the movement is a lot more slower and more precise. Even when I'm just flicking the left stick left and right super hard, I'm not really making big leaps until I add in the turbo button, and then now we have quicker or more jumpier type of defensive cutoff animation. So I need you guys to note that when I'm changing directions with both triggers being held, he's actually planting a lot harder compared to just L2 being held. That's important to note because we again have to examine both triggers in different scenarios. So the L2 button works best in lateral movement situations. You want to use that because, as you saw, when you use the L2 button, you're going to be able to change directions a lot quicker compared to L2 and R2, where it's going to be a delay. So if you are going to use L2 R2, make sure you guess correctly. I would use that in certain situations that I'm going to show in a couple more minutes. So just because L2 is better for lateral movement does not mean it's the best trigger to use in all situations. Me personally, I think that the L2 button should be used around the perimeter. It should be held at all times to prepare for a drive, but it's not necessarily the trigger that you want to use to stop drives, and I'm going to explain in a few seconds here. But first, let's get into triggering contact animations and how we can go about doing that a little bit more consistently. Okay, I know that a lot of people are going to say, hey, KD is just driving into Kawhi, and that's why these contact animations are triggering. But the reason why these clips are in play is because we want to examine and look at the position and look how Kawhi's full body is in front of KD. That's how you trigger contact animations in NBA 2K. The majority of your body has to be in front of the ball handler. If it's just your hip or a portion of your body, they can beat you, or you can try to go into a body up, but you may not be successful depending on the ball handler. So this is a great example of what we're talking about here in terms of having the majority of your body in front of the ball handler to trigger these contact animations. As you see, I'm not moving laterally, I'm moving more backwards. It's more of a back pedal, and that's why we want to use L2 and R2 to stop drives towards the rim. So L2 and R2 is what we want to use when we're dealing with an aggressive dribbler. If somebody is trying to launch towards the rim, they're turboing towards the rim, they're using an adrenaline boost, you want to use L2 R2. That's going to give you the speed. But on top of L2 and R2, how we're going to move is we're going to move in a way that's going to meet the ball handler to where he's trying to go. If you're trying to use lateral movement like you're seeing right now, you won't get your full body in front of the ball handler, and that will trigger, instead of a defensive contact animation, a ride. And if you get into a ride animation, you can get cooked like that, and you can get cooked like that as well, just trying to move left and right. Yeah, the crossover is nasty. We don't got to talk about it. This was just for demonstration purposes. All right, demonstration purposes. But again, lateral movement is not what we want to do. We want to use our triggers properly, and to use our triggers properly, regardless of the trigger that you are going to use, you want to move in more 45-degree angles, as you're seeing right here on the screen. Moving in this manner works because we're putting ourselves ahead or where the ball handler will be. If we try to move laterally left or right, we're actually going to be putting ourselves behind the ball handler, and on top of that as well, it's going to be a lot easier for the ball handler to counter our defensive movement and to go into their next crossover. Now I gotta say this because it's just something that I think a lot of people have misconceptions about, but you can't take away both. You can't take away the jumper, and you can't take away the drive. If you play closer, you will give up the drive, and if you play a little bit off, you will give up some jump shots. So you have to commit to what you think your opponent is more dangerous with. If you are going to play closer, the reason why you're going to give up the drive is the fact that you are going to be doing more lateral movement. So it doesn't really matter the triggers, it just matters the position. So again, if you are going to be playing closer, understand the drive will be there. If you are going to try to back away, understand you will have to give up some jump shot. You have to do your best to contest. So the next thing I have to talk about is doing the work before the catch or the drive starts. So if you try to get in a position, you know they're going to try to drive, again, back off of them. That's going to give you the best angles possible. A lot of people get caught up in, again, trying to play a little bit too close or not committing. You will get crossed up. You will be setting yourself up to using more lateral movements or playing behind the ball handler. I hope that makes sense. But again, if you just do the work before the drive starts, you should be good. And the work looks like this, not doing this right here. You see, I'm passing the ball and then I'm trying to go in and back away, and then I'm using both triggers on the perimeter. That was not on purpose. Trust me, I did not do that to try to be like, hey guys, left trigger, right trigger doesn't work. No, this is what actually happened. The reason being is because it's just too much momentum with both triggers. So when you try to change directions, or the opponent uses a slower or more nuanced move on the perimeter, you're not going to be able to change directions as quickly as they will.